Hello, everybody. Welcome to my women's basketball rantings. This is where I give my thoughts about the happenings in the women's game. If you like this type of content, please like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section below. I put episode notes down in case you want to skip to a section that interests you. If you're still listening, welcome. If you're not, welcome. Let's get started. Today, we are continuing the madness. So the madness has come and we are at the end of the madness, but I still foresee some crazy madness coming this weekend. So let's just talk about it. So I'm going to talk about the Sweet 16. I'm going to recap the Elite 8. And of course, I'm going to give my thoughts on the Final Four and the eventual championship game. So let's go. The Sweet 16 was good. It wasn't as crazy as the second round. I think that second round was really the round that really shook like a lot of people. It was crazy with North Carolina getting in, Creighton, South Dakota. So it was like, I think the second round was my favorite round. The Sweet 16 was good. I mean, there were a lot of really good matchups that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed a lot of the games, but it kind of went as expected. South Carolina and North Carolina, I think it was cool. It was a good game. North Carolina really tried their best, but of course, South Carolina is South Carolina. But I was surprised that it was an 8-point game. I thought it was going to be more than that, but a win is a win. Then we moved to Iowa State and Creighton. Creighton upset Iowa State. I wasn't really like surprised because it's Iowa State. I mean, they already upset Iowa, so who is Iowa State? So I was like, whatever. It was good. It was a good game, and yeah, they owned the city of Iowa basically. Louisville, Tennessee was funny. Yeah, I didn't expect Tennessee to get out of that game, and they didn't. So Michigan, South Dakota, I really thought South Dakota was going to give it to them, and they did give it to them. It's just that Michigan was the more experienced team. They clearly wanted it more, and yeah, so that was the end of Cinderella story. But a 3-point lead, that was when I knew that Michigan wasn't going to beat Louisville. People thought they were going to beat Louisville, but I was like, nah, you're not going to beat Louisville. Moving on, Stanford, Maryland was interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. They did give Stanford a lot. Yeah, so Maryland tried. So it kind of like, Stanford, are you good like that? So I was like, okay, there's a little bit of hope for Uconn when they play Stanford. Ohio State, Texas was a great game. I expected Texas to win, and Texas won, even though it was a 3-point lead. So it was just a very interesting like set of games. Everybody was fighting. There were really no blowout. Even the South Carolina that I expected it to be a blowout was not a blowout. Everybody just came to play, and it was just a very interesting game all around. And then, of course, let's talk Indiana, Uconn. People going into that game really thought that Indiana was going to beat Uconn. In fact, a lot of brackets actually had Indiana moving on. Yeah, really. I mean, come on. Are you guys delusional? It's fucking Uconn. I mean, they came in, they handled their business. I mean, Indiana tried to hang, but I was like, I mean, we're number 1 seed playing like a number 2 seed. No, we're number 2 seed playing like a number 1 seed. Like everybody was just pumping. Easy was good. Paige Beckers wasn't there, but she was good. Everybody was playing really, really well. They made a lot of clutch plays. They blew the game right open in the third quarter. It was a great, fun game. You know, I miss Uconn being in this type of games. Like they're always like crunching and grinding. Like I just missed them being in this type of game with such a good team. It was just really a really fun game. All right, so that's basically it for the Sweet 16. Like I said, there were some really good games, but of course, the ones that what I was really excited for was the at least 8, because that was when you knew the teams were fighting for their lives at this point. Like everybody wants to go to the Final Four. Only 4 can go to the Final Four. So it's like, what's it gonna be? And they were top teams. So apart from South Carolina and Creighton, yeah, nobody thought Creighton was going to beat South Carolina. So it was like, yeah, it was a blowout, 30 points in the Elite 8. It was like, yeah, whatever. So it wasn't really an interesting game. I didn't watch it. Texas, Stanford was fantastic. I picked Texas to upset Stanford, and they could have gotten away with it. It was just an 8-point game. So maybe Stanford, are they shooting really, really that well? When you look at it, just 59 over Texas, which is a very good defense. So something to watch out for. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, then we had Louisville, Michigan. Immediately after that, Michigan, South Dakota. I kind of knew Louisville might win this game, and they did by 12 points, which is fantastic in an Elite 8, meaning that they were so outclassed. I really thought it was going to be Baylor Louisville, with Baylor winning, but I mean, Louisville got the lucky end of the stick, and they got Michigan, and of course it was easy pickings. And then we'll go to the final game of the day, which was NC State Uconn. Yeah, that was a game. That was a fantastic game. I watched it. I had anxiety. I've not recovered. Honestly, I've not recovered from that game. I'm still like, it was just crazy. Like, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, because honestly, for me, I am a pessimist by nature, especially in life, I'm an optimist. But in sports, I'm like a pessimist. So it's like, sometimes I was like, these overtime things, they never go in the favor of the team I want, ever. They just never, like, the team that I don't want to win always wins in overtimes. It always happens. And then, like, there's just so many shots, like there's just so many variables in these overtime games. Like, can somebody have the energy? I shouldn't have bothered because we had Paige and they didn't. Paige Bakers just started dropping the shots. But the thing is that NC State was not going away. Paige Bakers was dropping, NC State was dropping. Paige Bakers was caught from the free throw line 6 for 6 in that overtime game. It was just crazy. She had the ball. They were trying to foul. It was just a very, very weird game, honestly. It was great, but it was weird. And it started like good enough. Uconn had a 10-point lead. Uconn always gives up leads. If you try that nonsense in Stanford, you're going to lose. Stop giving up leads. Play strong defense. Either way, I'm so proud of that team. Like, they held it together. They knew they were not going to lose. There were some funny, questionable decisions down the stretch, especially for the Westmore. Like, at the end, he had a very good look. I mean, all he needed to do was just score a 2, maybe a 1, maybe a foul, and they went for a 3 that didn't even make sense. I was like, it was someone trying to be a hero. What exactly happened in that crunch time? It was just I didn't understand that. But then I think this thing was just preordained. Like, Uconn was going to win that game no matter what. I think that's what happened, because there were some really weird decisions that were made. And like that Jakia Brown Turner's 3 was like crazy. If that happened at any other time, they would have probably lost that game. But it happened when they were down by 3. So if they were down by just 1, they would have lost that game. The other thing was just weird, but it was just like a faithful game. Paige Bakers had to go to Minnesota. She just had to go to Minnesota. Her teammates were like, I don't care what to do. We are going to get her there. The universe just aligned for that game for Uconn, honestly, because I really don't see how Uconn won that game, especially at that crunch time, because there's so many, anybody could have won, and it just went to Uconn. It was a great game, really, really great game. I really enjoyed it. It was one of like the reasons why I watch basketball. It was just fantastic. So even the game, Dr. US went down. Everybody played well. I was so impressed with AZ. She really, really played well. Like, I know that it's just her shooting, that she just played. She made good decisions every single time. There was one dime she passed to Aliyah Edwards, and Aliyah just catch. I was like, no, this is Bird kind of. Like, you can't be young and be doing those type of plays. It was a crazy, crazy play. I was so impressed with that, the young Uconn team, and how they pulled it together to get to the Final Four. So now we have our Final Four. Let's talk Final Four. So throughout the year, I always say, Final Four predictions. They make it after all my sessions. So now we really have a Final Four. And I think most people in my predictions were there. So I always had South Carolina, I always had Stanford, and I always had Louisville. I also had I didn't have NC State. I told you NC State is a very funny team. I didn't have NC State. I had Texas at some point. So I had like some wild cards, and I didn't have Uconn for a stretch of time until I started seeing them play better. So Uconn was in my Final Four. So I can actually say everybody I predicted in my Final Four came in my Final Four, apart from maybe a Louisville. I placed them with Baylor just for the upset factor, but I think they were always in my Final Four all year. I really should have just picked them, honestly. I don't know why I didn't. My bracket would have been perfect. All right, so let's talk what is going to happen in this Final Four. South Carolina, Louisville. I would pick South Carolina. I just can't count Louisville out. Like, they are a really good team. Eli Van Lith is on another landscape. I really don't care who wins. Either South Carolina, Louisville. Honestly, if Uconn beat Stanford, I think Uconn can take any of both of them. I believe Uconn can take South Carolina if they play really, really well. Either way, it doesn't really matter to me, but I'll just take South Carolina just to be true to my bracket. But I will really not be surprised if there's an upset, because Louisville is actually a really good team, and South Carolina for all we are the best team in the country, they are very susceptible in some parts. Especially if Aliyah Boston decides to have a bad night. And even if she doesn't have a bad night, if everybody else decides she can't score 100 points, like somebody has to deliver. And if they cut out those people, I don't know if they have enough to get it over it. But let's see. Anything can happen in the Final Four. I feel South Carolina will win that round. Then Stanford Uconn, honestly, with the Uconn I saw in the Elite Eight, and in fact throughout this tournament, I believe Stanford can win, but it's going to be a battle. Like, I believe Stanford can actually win this game, but I would not count Uconn because like I said, Paige Beckers wants to play in a country, in a state. You know, there's so many factors involved, and the grit. I feel Uconn has more grit. They had more fire. It's probably what happened last year. Christy Williams has not won a championship before in Uconn, so she's really, really like committed to doing it, and she has been really playing well this year. I feel Christy Williams has always been the X factor for Uconn. I don't know if Uconn has enough to win. So I don't know. I can't, honestly. This game, I can't predict because I feel Stanford is good. Stanford is really, really good. But then I thought NC State was good too. But NC State is good, and they really took it to Uconn. So yeah, would NC State have beaten Stanford? I don't think NC State will have beaten Stanford, and Uconn beat NC State. I'll take Uconn because, well, my bracket. But honestly, I won't be surprised if Stanford wins this game. I will not be surprised. I mean, they have Bailey Jones, like Cameron Brink, Frank Belibi. They have some really good players. They play together. They're a team. They are defending champs, so they know exactly what it takes to win a championship. Even though that championship game was very weird, I don't feel. I mean, they should have agreed with 1 point with Arizona. It's Arizona. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, I'll take South Carolina, Uconn, and Uconn to win it all. Yeah, so that's it for my Final Four predictions. But all in all, it's going to be a great Final Four. I have been so impressed with the tournament this year, and even the coverage. It's just been a really good tournament. I'm going to miss it. So we have 3 more days of women's college basketball. And that's the end of the season until November, which is like forever. But then we have WNBA to keep us company. So yeah, thanks for listening. Have a good day.